Hi everyone, and welcome. I've been considering starting a channel for over a year, and after much consideration about what to say or talk about and how I could be relevant in a discussion, well, today's the day. I decided it was simply time to take action. So here I am. I'll be direct and just try to go through my notes. I have to have something to keep me on track, or I'll just go on forever, and I don't want that. I'd prefer to try to keep my shows at this point to 30 minutes or less. While I love it when people have really long, in-depth content, there's so many people out there that have amazing information to share. I find it helpful if it's shorter. So I'm going to try to do that. I can't guarantee it'll always be that way, but I'm sure going to try. So why have a channel in the first place? Well, I really don't have any intel. I'm not trying to make you turn the channel now, but I am going to tell you why I'm here. The big reason that I see is that it's time for us to talk about the transition period that's coming up. It's going to be really important that we come together and we start to focus on what our new reality means. I feel like there's a lot of people who are still stuck in the old reality, and that I'm afraid that's not coming back. Actually, I'm not afraid at all. I'm very happy to say that. So there were a lot of things that we didn't even realize were kind of messed up about that old reality. And this is a very exciting time that we're going into. We simply need to have a better comprehension on what that might be. And then we also need to remember that we are part of creating our future. We are part of creating this exciting new reality. So if you're just waking up, that's awesome. Welcome. And it's time for us to start to work together to build our new reality. It's very exciting. It's kind of an apropos day, I think, after this midterm just had in the United States, because a lot of people have really mixed emotions about what happened, and it's still not over yet. Well, many of us would like to go back to when we just had an election in one day, and even though we have all this amazing technology now that should be more efficient, it's clearly not. And even though we used to be able to have elections in one day without all this fancy new technology, now it seems to take sometimes weeks to get an answer. There's a lot of hubbub about that, and I'm not going to talk about that as much. I'll let you draw your own conclusions and listen to the many other people out there who are talking about it. As I said before, I want to talk about where we're going next. Where do we go from here? It's been very confusing these last few years, and I was also very confused. There's so much disinformation out there. You can't even listen to the mainstream media, of course. I personally could never stand them in the first place. No offense, mainstream media, but you kind of sold out a long time ago. So I still welcome all of you with open arms to start discussing truth instead of fiction, to try to change things for a different narrative or a different outcome, a different reality altogether, not some weird, twisted, negative, sad existence. At least that's how it felt for me for a long time. So I'm excited about where we're going in the future. And while it may seem that we just had a really discouraging result because we didn't get an answer in one day in the US with our midterm, and now we have to wait for goodness knows how long to get those final results. Well, nonetheless, it might be a really good wake-up call for a lot of people. Sometimes things just take longer than we want for people to come together and have cohesion to move forward as one, which I think minorities are good. I don't think we all need to do the same thing all the time. In fact, I embrace differences. Absolutely. My gosh, I've spent most of my life feeling like an outcast. So there you go. I'm okay with that. I'm okay as a loner. So in this crazy show that we've been in for so long, where do we go from here? Not just forward. We need to stop the division. We need to come together. And how do we do that? Well, let's just be genuine. Perhaps we need to simply start by finding ourselves and finding our own truth. I personally just started a 30-day challenge to work on myself physically, which is really important. I've been struggling with that for a while. I was super athletic when I was younger. Years later, after several car accidents and challenges, well, here I am. And now I'm working on myself again more. Not just spiritually, been working on that too, also physically. So you'll probably get to see me evolve as this channel is around longer too. At any rate, so what else are we going to talk about? Is it just going to be how we come together and, improve ourselves to move forward as one? Well, no. How we do that opens up a huge amount of additional subject matter. For me, for instance, out of all the confusion over the last few years and disinformation, even though we know disinformation is necessary, about 6 months ago, I ran into a new source of information that helped clear up a subject I had heard about off and on for many, many years, at least over a decade. And in part, I was born around people who were already involved with that subject. So I'll go ahead and spit it out. State nationalism. So over time, I will talk about that to some degree. After considering having a channel for over a year, it was something that I most recently thought about a lot, as that being one of the subject matters, because now it's something I'm studying in depth. It started to become a daily part of my life to study and learn. After all, it's going to take me years. Truly, you need to have a good comprehension of law, all kinds of law, not just one or two kinds, all three kinds of law. But I'm not going to dive into that today. There's still a few items on my bullet point list that I had originally wanted to discuss on my first show, but I'm still researching some of those bullet points, so I'm not quite ready to discuss it yet. I was really driven to start doing this today because of the midterm yesterday, and I just couldn't wait any longer. So I'm going to grab my little notes here so I don't get off track. Relevant content, that's certainly on the platform. I'd like to hopefully have interviews in the future with some interesting people so we can talk about, how we move forward. I will be on multiple platforms. I don't have fancy equipment and I'm just doing this on the spur of the moment. So you're going to have to bear with me while I find my way forward, figure out how to present this information to you in a better format so that you can find me on all the platforms. I'll tell you where those are, but I also need to start navigating how to upload and what that's going to be like, and all of those different caveats as I go forward. So bear with me. My goodness, I don't even know who's going to watch this, for starters. Wow, we're already at 10 minutes. So let's see. I want my content to be helpful for everyone. That's really important to me. I don't want this to just be a channel that bloviates, as opposed to finding ways that we can be constructive going forward. I did have some thoughts on the whole discussion about the red wave. A lot of people have disappointment because they feel this red wave wasn't as big as they wanted it to be. Well, a few thoughts on that I'd like to share are, for starters, maybe the red wave is more than just the vote for one election. Perhaps this is just the beginning of the building of the red wave. And for me, that's a perfect segue back to the state nationalism. To me, that is more what the red wave is about. And if you start finding some of these other channels that show content from people like David Straight or Bobby Lawrence, or there's so many people talking about this subject now, and there's a lot of misunderstanding. You might pick up some snippets of discussion that will make you realize what I'm saying, that perhaps that is part of a bigger red wave. State nationalism is just about all of us standing up for our sovereignty. So I had fun. I was so excited when I found this shirt. I thought it was great and I had to have it. So sovereignty, that's all that state nationalism is about. It's also about sovereignty as an individual coming together with a community, and how we do that with laws. So again, we'll go into more detail on that later on. I really hope that some of you will join me on my journey to study and learn more about state nationalism and the laws. These are laws that have been around in perpetuity, quite literally. They're not just isolated to the United States. It is a worldwide human phenomenon, not just a US thing. So, you know, when they say the end won't be for everyone, maybe this is kind of what they meant. It might mean that someone isn't just going to solve all the problems for you. You may have to participate in that. You're not just going to be able to get your popcorn and watch the movie and have a happy ending where you go check your bank account and now you're rich because you got all your tax money refunded. Hopefully that happens. I think it should happen with NESARA. However, that's not the point. The bigger point is, which back to the end won't be for everyone. You know, there's a certain letter of the alphabet that we might all know of says that. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because you might actually have to participate. Just a thought to consider. I decided that was part of it. You know, there's, again, back to the confusion thing the last few years. I didn't know where to start. I'm one of these people that I can see all the things I'd like to do, and I love, quite literally, everything. You know, it could be math, gardening, art, science, law, language, just go live in the woods, hike the PCT trail, travel the world. I love all of it, but I can't do everything all at once. So you have to pick things that are going to work, right? So about 6 months ago, when it clicked for me, I realized the state nationalism thing, that was it. That was how I was going to stand up. And so far, as I study more and more, that just checks out more and more every day. I digress. We'll leave that there. So perhaps the whole experience we've had is a wake-up call. I don't think it started that way. There was definitely an agenda. I mean, they literally have publications from decades ago and within the last 10 years that literally have agenda in a written title, and it spells out what just happened in the last 3 years. So I do have a little bit of a hard time when people like to tell me, no, there's never an agenda. I wish they were right, but it's kind of hard to say there wasn't one when there are literally documents from huge organizations that are world organizations that literally had something called a publication called an agenda that actually happened years and years later, exactly as they wrote years before. Doesn't that sound like an agenda? I mean, I think they were actually telling the truth about that one, which is a little ironic. And then we don't want to believe the truth, but we will believe their lies. This is again back to the confusion. So you have to laugh, because for me, I've had to relearn, and remember to follow my intuition. Use your discernment, they like to say. For me, that's following my intuition. Fortunately, that isn't hard for me. It seems to kind of be a natural thing. But there's a lot of reasons for that I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about my story. I'm going to talk about what I said. Where do we go from here? So if people don't stand up, then this movie just might never end. So I would hazard to ask that people try to explore things that they feel is making them stand up. Peaceful things, nothing violent. I do not advocate violence by any means. So I think it's good to be physically fit so that you can take care of yourself. And God forbid, if you have to defend yourself, then you should be capable of doing so. But I do not advocate for violence. So the whole standing up thing, for me, that's all about being a state national. And perhaps having a channel, like I'm putting content out there now, that's also standing up, putting my voice in the ring. So I think that's important. The good news is, if you don't like the ending because it means you might have to participate, the good news is you could actually participate by standing up quietly, by simply doing some research. Find what standing up means for you. And maybe that's just researching what state nationalism is. Start with history. Look for people that are talking about it, like David Straight, and make some decisions. There's some really good information out there, and there is proof positive that it works. There are many, many people standing up and establishing local assemblies in their counties across the United States. There are also people doing this in other countries, because again, this is not isolated to the United States. This is about being human. It's about our history of sovereignty worldwide. So start there. It's pretty exciting, actually. And I hope that it'll help you feel more free. And it's helped me see that there is a way out of the rat maze. And that's exciting. Why is it exciting? It means you can stand up without drawing any attention to yourself whatsoever. And if you should happen to get excited that you want to do more, you can find people in your area. Find like-minded people that you can discuss these things with and share with. You'll find your path. That's how it works. I hope that I've piqued your interest about what may in the future. These are very exciting times. I do believe that I think we are going to have an RV. My background is over 20 years in mortgage. I'm currently unemployed since August, which was actually a really good thing. It gave me an opportunity. So I like to stay positive as much as I can. And I'm very excited about the RV. Really looking forward to having a currency reevaluation worldwide, not a great reset, Mr. Schwab and your cronies. But hey, all your cronies are welcome to switch over to the good side and have your own awakening. We welcome you to apologize, even if it's only by apologizing to Source, God, and trying to be a better person. And perhaps, you might have more fun. I can't imagine being a bad guy is fun. I don't know. But if you're too far gone, I don't know. I don't get to make the rules about what happens to you, but we'll see, I guess. And, well, I guess that's it. Oh, no, RV. Yes, I'm so excited about the RV. And I do believe in NESARA. It's not hard. There's all kinds of documentation out there. Again, do your research. I'm still researching. You know, research never stops. You got to learn to like it because you learn so much. Cheesy, I know. So thank you all for bearing with me as I have my very first show. And I hope that you have a wonderful year to come. See you next time.